Okay, and welcome to another episode of Hempire. My name is Pete Barenberg. I'm here along with my host, Nick DeFrancesco, CEO and founder of PurWell. What's going on there, Nick?
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I'm excited about our next guest for sure. Look, I wanted to say thank you for everybody that's been tuning in, and we wanted to make a special promo code for you guys. So if you go on to PurWell, PurWell.com, PurWell.com, and put in that HEMP20 code, anything that you have that you want to get onto PurWell, you guys are going to get 20% off. And I just thought I'd throw that out to you because I wanted to thank you guys for always listening to the show and supporting it, and kind of hook you up a little bit. So I'm definitely excited. Went to high school with our next guest, so pretty excited to have him on. Pete, come on, tell us who we got.
Yeah, man. Well, you seem to be pretty familiar with him, considering we're talking to a man who has walked from Delaware to California in the name of cancer. And like I said, this is not a Forrest Gump remake here. We're talking to Keith Doubman. Keith, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. It's amazing to meet up with old friends and kind of meet up with new ones too.
Thanks for having me.
So obviously, Keith, we went to high school together, played soccer together, obviously played lacrosse together, went to school, went classes, everything, all that good stuff. And when I had seen what you had walked and you had accomplished, I had not known about that at first. So I was just checking up on my Facebook, and I had saw pictures. It was a little while ago, and I was just like, that is absolutely amazing. I mean, and that's what I thought of, Pete. I thought of Forrest Gump, right? I mean, that's the first thing I thought. Wait, how could you not? And so I definitely want to get into what made you do this, and when you started that journey. So I know you said, you had a quote, you said, "I was just trying to do my part so that the future families don't have to go through what I did. Finding a cure or a new way of fighting cancer all starts with the scientists." So tell us what sparked that, right? I mean, what made you do this?
Well, there's several reasons that I decided to do this. So several years ago, my father passed away from cancer. And, at that point, it was a really, sad moment for our family and I. But I didn't really think about doing something for cancer at that time. We're just sad. So there was no thought process in there. And then about after I left Korea, I moved to Hawaii for a little bit, and my business partner got really sick, and so he's still very sick now, and he can't walk, and he's stuck in a wheelchair, and he needs a couple, new organs that need to be transplanted. So he's a lot younger than us, and that makes you think. When you see a guy that's younger than you, his life is kind of deteriorating right in front of your eyes, you start becoming really grateful for your health and how healthy you are. And you kind of start thinking about that you don't want to waste it while you are still young and able to use it. So at that moment when I was in Hawaii, I kind of decided, I was like, I want to do something epic. I don't know what it is. And that kind of seedling kind of started catching on, and I did a lot of research, and I was like, I'm going to walk across the US. And at that moment, I didn't think about doing it for cancer research. I kind of did it for, I was thinking more in terms of the line of doing it more for showing the world that there are still good people out there. But when I came home and I was talking to my brother-in-law, that's a great thing, but you should do it something that you really feel connected to, that you can back and you can do all this. And he's the one that kind of was like, just write down 2 or 3 ideas that you really, really can back. And I was like, all right. And I thought about it. And 2 of the big things that I thought about was adoption and cancer. And ultimately, in the end, I decided to walk across the U.S. to raise money for cancer research.
which is an amazing feat and amazing. Let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about why you said adoption. So okay. Keith was adopted. You could go into that a little bit and your story, because you just said, went back to Korea, right? So let them know exactly how your life went, because it was pretty crazy, right? So, you were born in Korea?
Yeah. So
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in Korea.
Can we start that question again?
Right. Okay. You got it. No problem. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why you said adoption in there as well.
Give me 10 seconds, sir. A silent pause before you start. Thank you.
All right. So you said cancer and adoption, but let's go to adoption first. I want everybody to know your story, because I feel like it's really an amazing story. So you were born in Korea. All right. Now, and then lead them on after that. What happened?
Yeah. So I was born in Korea, and I lived there for 7 years with my, I guess, biological mom and dad. And then my mom decided to run away when I was really young, and it was just my dad and I. And, to make a long story short, to kind of sum it up, he passed away. When he passed away, I was basically sleeping right next to him. So that was kind of a, scary moment for me. That was like my first experience, I guess, with death.
Wow. And such an early age.
Yeah. And then so in around like 1986, 1987, Korea was not the richest country. They're still recovering from the Korean War, and there's still a lot of the small towns that people were living in were still, very poor. So when I was living with my dad, we grew up very, very poor. I had to beg food, I didn't go to school. And this lasted until I was 7 years old, until my dad passed. And then after that, so my oldest uncle came and took me into his house to try to raise me. But like I said, Rio's not the richest place. And he already had a couple kids of his own. So it ended up that, trying to raise another kid was financially difficult for them. And as much as they hated it, I guess, they decided to put me up for adoption, so I got put into an orphanage when I was 7, and I think I stayed there for maybe 6 or 7 months before I got adopted.
Nice.
And then I made my way to here in the U.S.
And so somebody from Pennsylvania, and why this is all coming to fruition here is the man that obviously adopted you, which was your now adopted father, is the one that you just talked about, had cancer, and he ultimately had passed away from cancer, but had brought you to Pennsylvania. And of course, if anybody doesn't know, because not everybody's going to know who Keith is, Keith was a phenomenal and still is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, multi-athlete, just anything that he did, he was great at. He was just one of those guys, and so, but to have that opportunity, Lower Merion, being in Harridan is, a more affluent area. It's the main line. So definitely a nice change from coming from Korea and not being as wealthy to being able to have a very nice, upbringing, let's be honest. Right. So definitely blessed that way as well. So, when I heard that you were going to do this, I was just, when we had done this, I go, what would possess somebody to do this? And so let's talk about the cancer side, right? Because obviously, it's horrible. Many people in this country know somebody, a relative, a friend who's ever, everybody that has been touched by cancer. So it's a great cause. And of course, why you specifically went after, I know you raised about $57,000, right? And you donated it to the Cancer Research Institute based on transparency and their innovative immunotherapy research. So tell us what that specific group made? Why did you pick that exact group?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of different research of who I wanted to kind of back on my wall. And, because just in terms of what I realized and what I was hearing, like if you were to look at some of the other cancer places that you can donate to, you look at the percentage that actually goes into the research and the percentage that goes into like the overhead costs. So, a lot of them that are the big ones, if you look at it, like every dollar that is donated, only maybe like 5 cents goes into the research and 95 cents goes into the overhead. And, and then you look at
it sounds a little bit like a racket.
Yeah. And you look at some of the CEOs that are doing these type of nonprofit organizations, but they're driving like BMWs, living in multi-million-dollar homes, and I just thought to myself, like, why do I need to, enlarge our pockets a little bit more and give them, a platform to say, oh, please donate to us. So I found the cancer, the institute, and they on their front page,
the Cancer Research Institute.
Yeah, on their front page, they basically said, for every dollar that is spent, 80 cents goes to the research, and only 20 cents goes to, the overhead costs, which is,
it's a much better percentage.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And okay. And $57,000 is nothing to sneeze at. Right. Mm-hmm. And to tell all the listeners, you started in Delaware, you ended up in
San Francisco.
So true Forrest Gump style, right? Did you grow that? Did you have the beard? Because I'm going to talk to you about how this all went down, but I want to know if you looked like him by the end. Is what?
Dude, I can't grow anything. I mean, like, I shaved today, but even if I were not to shave for a month, I would just have like a little peach fuzz. Like, I can't. I just don't grow any like facial hair.
Well, you went on to TikTok to log on the miles, and you now have over 2 million likes on those videos. So tell us about that response. Tell us about, obviously the fan mail, I'm sure, the support.
The engagement you got.
The engagement.
Yeah. So when I started this walk, I knew I needed to raise, my goal was about $50,000, right? And I've never raised that much in anything before.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for an individual to raise.
And I was like, hey, I'm going to shoot the moon because I'm going to do something epic. I'm going to just try it. And in the back of my mind, I was like, no way I'm going to get 50,000. This was in the beginning, of course.
Right.
I was like, no way am I going to reach $50,000. But if I were to reach, if I had set my goal for 10,000, I would have been happy with 5,000.
Right.
But if I set my goal for 50,000 and I only reached 5,000, I wouldn't be happy. So I set it high. So I was hoping to at least get maybe like, 20,000,
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. And so because of that, I forgot where I was going.
You went on to TikTok.
Oh yeah. So I started making, so I just decided to make brand new social media pages, one on Instagram and one on TikTok. I had 0 followers on Instagram on the new page, and I had 0 followers on TikTok. I just made it, just started making videos, posting them, hoping that I would get the traction. And then for the first 32 days, 33 days, I had maybe about 900 followers on TikTok. I was just posting it. And then I woke up one morning, I think it was day number 34, and I went from 900 to 5,000. I was like, wow, that's incredible. I was like, geez. So, and then an hour later, that 5,000 turned into 50,000. And then from there, in matter of 24 hours, I think I had reached about 130,000 followers.
That's crazy.
And then in 48, I think I hit 200 and something thousand.
Right. It just kept on. You started getting into the algorithm, and then it was just on to the races.
Yeah.
But how amazing in such a short amount of time to go from 900 to over 200,000. I mean, obviously, 2 million, likes on these videos at this point is a little more than 200,000. But yeah, that's really amazing but that shows. I mean, let's talk about it. There's still some
eyes.
A lot of eyes. There's a lot of people that want to support not just the trash that's on social media all the time, right? And all the bullshit that you see, but really a cause that is, near and dear to many people, millions of people's hearts. And someone that has the balls to do it, right? You have people that don't get out of bed in the morning because they don't want to get out of bed. And you're talking about somebody who got out of bed and walked to the other side of the country on foot. And now let's talk about this because I have the list here. Let's go 5,000 miles. Let's a tent, an air mattress, medical supplies, 2 types of water filtration systems, 2 waterproof bags, 2 solar-powered battery packs, a portable stove, and enough peanut butter crackers and granola bars to last until he arrives in the next town.
Someone got a Costco card.
Wait, there's more, Pete. Hold on.
What, that was in his right pocket?
That's it. There's also a tripod for his camera, a 4-inch 3D printed figurine, and he had a drone, which I do remember the drone. I think the drone broke or something.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so, and then I obviously shipped that back to Pennsylvania. But, so tell me how you planned this. Because now everyone's like, why is this show? We're not talking about cannabis. I got to be honest with you. I think he wishes that he probably had cannabis when he was, throwing this whole trip to make this better, carrying God knows how many pounds. So, yeah, so let's talk about this. How did you plan this? How much did this weigh? This is incredible.
So in the beginning, I basically packed everything except for the kitchen sink. So my backpack weighed about 75 pounds when we weighed it. And it was,
oh my God!
It was pretty brutal. I made it all the way to Maryland. Before I was like, I can't do it. Right. So in Maryland, my cousin lives there, and so I called him up and I told him, I was like, hey. Let me spend the night. I need to, reorganize my backpack. And so I reorganized everything, and it was still pretty heavy, but I took maybe about 15 pounds off.
Well, yeah, but still, it's 15 pounds is a lot.
Yeah.
Especially walking like that.
And they did actually make a mistake, I think, in that article. I didn't bring a mini stove. I didn't bring anything to cook with.
But what did you bring? A lacrosse stick, all right?
Yes,
and we're going to talk about this. Now, getting the support. Now, obviously, you lightened your bag and everything. You had all this stuff. Were the people that were on TikTok or just in general, I mean, how are you getting help, right? I mean, because you're talking about these people are watching the videos or people that you're walking, obviously you have the water filtration and things. So you got to think about, you need enough calories to get over. So how did that work? I mean, were you sleeping over in tents? Are people giving you food? Are you going to eat? I mean, tell me how this is all happening.
So in the beginning, there was a trail which I followed for most of the way called the American Discovery Trail. And it's a trail which connects Lewis, Delaware to San Francisco. But it's not just like one long trail. It's I don't know if you guys know what rails to trails is. It's kind of like old railroad that is not used. They get made into kind of trails.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
So people can walk on it. And
there's literally a trail that does this. I mean, I want you to go into this. I'm just saying, I still cannot fathom this. That it's from Delaware. It literally goes straight through to San Francisco.
It's not just a trail. It's like a whole bunch of different trails connected.
Okay, yeah. I understand that, but I mean, it's one continuous.
Yeah, that you can walk in, but there's they'll do like rails to trails, and then the next section, you'll be walking on next to like a highway. And then after that, you'll be walking in these small towns that, you know, and then all of a sudden, after a while, you might hit another rails to trails run. So it's like they take all the walkable streets, trails, and they connect it together to be able to.
Right. It's like a man-made GPS system, right? So, but I guess what my question is now, the fact that they made this, I wonder if people are doing what, a couple states maybe, or through that state, a walkable trail. I mean, I'm sure not everybody, I mean, we know that people are not just going from Delaware to California. So is it just that it's for people that normally want to walk in a certain state that they have an area? Or, I mean, how did they come up with this trail? It's amazing.
So from what I understand is that each state that the trail goes through has kind of a I guess a leader that kind of takes care of that section of the trail. Okay. And then so every state has a different person that is in charge of their section. Okay. But when people walk it, like, you know, they can walk whatever. If they just want to walk, 1 kilometer, they can walk 1 kilometer. You know, it's not something that like you need to sign up for, or you just, so you'll be walking, like, especially in Maryland, there's this like one long trail, and it is so busy because you're just going through Maryland, and it's just like this section that goes through this town. So like, you're walking next to bikers and, walkers and, kids on their bikes. So you don't even feel like you're in nature. You're just in the middle of town that's just going through. And then once you pass like that town, it becomes empty. Right. It just continues.
Right. My trail keeps going and yours stops. So now what do you do for food and all that stuff that we were talking about, like sleeping? I mean, people must definitely have these questions. I do. I mean, what are you doing for these types of things?
So when I decided to do this, I would always see where my next town was and how long. So if it was maybe like 60 miles, let's say from the town I'm at to the next town, 60 miles, I would try to pack enough food for maybe 3 days or 4 days. But not like cooking food. It'll be just, your, peanut butter crackers or granola bars or, something that's very easy to eat without cooking anything. And then once I got into that town, I would eat a big meal.
Okay. So you at least have something that holds you over, but you are eating. That was always my question. Like, only because you probably don't think about it, right? Until you get hungry that first time, and you're like, wait. Am I killing my food? Am I picking berries and eating leaves? I mean, what's actually happening? I mean, are we on the Oregon Trail here? Do I have enough, So, and having all that supplies, and then water, same thing, or as you said, you had we said you had that water filtration. What are you doing for that as well? I mean, is there streams and things like that where you're filtering water? Or are you just buying bottles of water? I'm just curious.
Yeah. A lot. So I pass by like the Ohio River, the Colorado River, and there's a lot of streams that you would pass by. So I kind of knew that if I had enough water for maybe 2 or 3 days worth, I would always find at least some place that I can fill up my water bottles. And then if I were to pass like someone's home and I was running out, I would go up to them like, excuse me, can I fill up my water bottle?
Now, were they responsive to this, or so some people were weirded out? I mean, somebody comes knocking on it's not like it used to be where everyone had a cake and some alcohol waiting for you. Now they're like, why is somebody knocking on my door?
You wouldn't be welcoming to a guy coming out of the woods with a lacrosse stick?
Oh, believe me. And the time I was doing this was even a lot tougher for me because I was doing it during the COVID pandemic.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
that even makes it. So make sure you wear a mask if you're coming to get that water.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It was so people, at that time, COVID was still pretty new, so they didn't
Right.
really know anything about it. They just know it was a very easy to spread and whatever.
Right.
So
They think he's out there in the woods planting it.
Right. You're right. At that point. So now I was getting back to that question, that TikTok thing. Like TikTok's, live. You could do live. Is that how you would do it? You do it live, right? As you were doing it, right? So my question is did people meet you out there or support you now that you had all those followers, kind of maybe giving you supplies or cheering you on or supporting you in any way?
Throwing water at you.
Throwing water at you.
Oh, I mean, it's we call them like through hikers that have hiked a long time. Anyone that kind of gives you stuff, we call them trail angels.
Okay.
It's people that help you along the way that and that you don't know. They're just total strangers, so they'll give you water or food or whatever. But when I became pretty well known on TikTok, people would text me and they're like, I saw you here, oh my God, I wanted to stop, but you were next to a highway and I couldn't.
Right.
And then like people would literally, like if it wasn't a highway where they could stop, people would literally stop and they're like, oh my God, you're KCDAdventure, can we take a picture with you? And they would ask me a whole bunch of questions and do all this. And I was like, yeah, of course. And
it's got to be a great feeling, right? I mean, you're doing something for an amazing cause. You're raising money because obviously they're also supporting you financially for the cause. So that must have been just an amazing feeling that that people that are recognizing you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it was a great. It was and is still a great feeling to have all these supporters kind of backing you in a way. Now, when I first started, like I didn't please don't get me wrong, like I didn't ask them to donate to me. I always asked them to donate to the cause.
Right, of course, yeah.
But some people, they did want to help me out along the way, so people would donate to my I guess what you call it, my Venmo or
your personal bank account. Let's just say it, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay.
And they would be like, hey, we want you to, your next meal's on me, or your next pair of shoes, please, use this for them. And
how many pairs of shoes did you go to?
Yeah, that's a great question.
3.
Okay. Right. Not as bad as I thought. I mean, not. I mean, it's still 3 pairs of shoes. But and now, just for the listeners out there, what shoes were you wearing? I mean, these weren't Converse. I hope with
no.
The Chucks.
They were hiking boots.
Nice. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that's kind of crazy because, I feel like that would be heavy for walking. Like I would probably throw on some sneakers, like.
He already had 60 pounds on his back. What's another 10 pounds?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And let's talk about that. How much weight did you lose?
Oh God. I ended up losing, I think about maybe 20, 25 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So everybody looking for that next diet. Long walk.
A long walk. But I mean, he's really not, he's burning all those calories. It's nonstop. So now would you do it? Yeah, like how would that work? I mean, obviously you had your lacrosse stick. You played lacrosse in a lot of the states, or how did that go? Because I thought I heard something, or you definitely tried to play lacrosse in almost every state, or something to that extent.
I played wall ball in every single state that I went through, and I filmed it and I put it on TikTok. I tried to play in a very unique place that
cool.
To show different places. So like I played next to a highway where there's like a huge Maryland sign that says "Welcome to Maryland." I would just be throwing the lacrosse ball off the Maryland, and video.
And of course, Maryland's a huge lacrosse state. And I want to get into that. I want to talk about when we played lacrosse and the sport and what it was to what it is now. I guess, like I said, let's get into that. I mean, what's your idea and your perception of, when we played, which was just an amazing fun time. It's a lot of sports combined into one, which is cool. It's just fast paced. It's similar to basketball, football, soccer. It's a little bit of everything in one, right? So, but where it's actually gone now, right? To where we are now, and more people that are playing it, and Major League. We'll talk about that. There was no Major League MLL at the time,
right? The game has changed so much since we played. The sticks are incredibly, a lot more technologically advanced than when we played. They're a lot lighter. Now they determine your stick type by the position you play. So now there's a defensive stick, there's a midi attack stick, and there's a face-off stick now.
Wow.
When we were growing up,
Keith was played center midi. I played right wing, right midi and stuff like that. Keith used to take a lot of the face offs, and then when I had to enforce, I used to go in and do it every once in a while. But it was crazy because we have to get a special stick. At the time, it was a little bit thicker on the sides to be able to clamp over or to rake or whatever you wanted to do. And now they have an actual face-off stick, which is pretty,
Yeah, it's if you look at the game these days, it is so fast, and especially with now about 90% of the teams playing on turf.
Right.
We barely played on turf unless you played in college. So the ball would bounce weird. And, you would have to. So if it was bouncing, you would have to kind of see. So the bounce shots were really hard for goalies. But now it's on turf. It's just you can kind of see it a lot easier, and it's made the game faster, and it's evolved the game to be a lot quicker. The ball movement's amazing, and just the speed of the play is so quick.
And we actually ended up going to school. Obviously, we're Howard Lower Merion. Everybody knows Kobe Bryant for Lower Merion, but there was another player named John Christmas who was, and again, I don't know his whole story, but I remember that he was. Well, he had definitely had a write-up of one of the top black athletes of all time, but one of the best black lacrosse players. It was the first black lacrosse player to get a full ride scholarship, which was pretty amazing in itself. And you said, I thought I was talking to you, you said he was right next to Jim Brown in this league. So we were lucky to play with a lot of people, but that's what I said, just kids nowadays. There's more students playing it. There's more schools that offer it. And I think that there's more eyes on it. We had Major League Lacrosse, of course, indoor lacrosse. It's super fast paced. It's completely different sport, indoor lacrosse than outdoor lacrosse. But you see, now you're obviously still in lacrosse and things like that. What are you seeing? Is it just more widespread or better players coming up? There's obviously advances in the equipment as usual. I don't know if you guys know, this comes from the Indians. The American Indians created lacrosse. So I felt the way you were just talking, we sounded like when we were playing the sticks that we watched, these wooden sticks when they were throwing people's heads around back in the day. Cause that's really, it was crazy, right? Came from Indians, right, Keith?
Yeah. It did. It was created by Native Americans. I don't want to just say it's from America. It's also from Canada, North America. So, but yeah, that's why it's one of Canada's national sports. But I do want to kind of go back to John Christmas. You said,
absolutely. Please do that.
He played with Jim Brown. He didn't play with Jim Brown. There was an article in a lacrosse magazine where they named the top, I guess, Black athletes to contribute to lacrosse. And John Christmas, his name was as one of the best Black lacrosse players, was mentioned in that with Jim Brown's name.
Yeah, I should have clarified that. I think I misspoke there. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's all right. And, me playing lacrosse and, John playing lacrosse, we grew up. And, I got to talk to him a lot. And I still do, still one of my good friends. And one of the interesting things that he said to me was my dad was his very first lacrosse coach. How
See,
is that? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I see you're rocking the Eagles hat, of course, representing Philly. I love that. And then you played in Honolulu, right? So you played in Hawaii.
Yeah, I played in Hawaii. Hawaii lacrosse. I'm fortunate enough to have played lacrosse like all over the world. Not because of playing for a certain team that travels. It's like when I lived in Korea, I got to play on the Korean team, and then also on the Japanese team, and just wherever I could take it, I played lacrosse. And then when I moved to Hawaii, I played in Hawaii. So I got to experience playing in a lot of different places, which was an amazing experience because you see how different the game is in different countries and different places. East Coast is basically the hotbed of lacrosse in America, but it is growing. But it is so competitive here on the East Coast. Like it doesn't matter at what age you play; it is very competitive. Whereas if you play in Hawaii or if you play in other places, it's not as competitive. It's more of just having fun, learning the game, and just enjoying the sport just for the experience of it.
And how are other countries perceived of, playing in Korea, right? In Asia and things like that. How do they, is it like other sports where there's like a niche, like obviously football is the worldwide sport, soccer. But when you're talking about American football, there's patches of country, that they play these, but they're just not big. And that's what I'm saying. Are you seeing that lacrosse across the world is getting a little, because usually our odder sports in America are usually the ones that take off in other countries more.
Right. I wouldn't say that they're taking off in other countries, but it is growing.
Okay.
And if you look at the two countries that are the most dominant in lacrosse just if you look at like the World Lacrosse League, it's usually it's always Canada and then USA. Those are usually the top two countries. And then it's sprinkled in with, England and some of the other countries. But now Japan is growing so fast and their skills are improving so, drastically that they are starting to compete with some of the top tier teams in the tournaments. And then you get some of the smaller countries, like for example, like Uganda has a team.
Crazy.
And
Who would have thought that?
Yeah. Right.
And John, to go back, John Christmas helped coach that team when they first went. An interesting fact is Uganda, when they went to the World Games, they had never really played in the World Games. It was their first year, whatever. They beat one team, their first win. Who do you think it was against?
United States.
Canada.
Oh, Canada.
No. It was
Korea.
Team Korea.
Korea. That was my third. That was where I was going.
Yeah, so,
I should have spent because of course you're going to say Korea. Guess who they played? Korea.
Yeah, so Korea lost to Uganda, so it was one of those things where it's just like, oh god, Korea will always be known as the
right. Lost to Uganda. So let's now obviously with cannabis show and things like that. Mm-hmm. You've had some experience. We got to get you some products out there. I know you recently broke your leg, so we want to get you some stuff. You know, we grew up in a time where it was different, right? So cannabis was kind of a dirty word. As we were playing sports, it's not something that we would have wanted to be taking while we're playing. I'm sure you've had some experience with cannabis. Do you feel like it would have helped you, or do you feel like it would help you now? Or what was your experience with cannabis, if you've had any or you do have?
Yeah, so I dabbed in cannabis throughout my life. I wouldn't say it's my main focus, but I remember the very first time trying it. I was in high school, but we won't.
Wow.
Details.
Wow. News to me.
Yeah, and it was was a very, very interesting feeling for me. It was just, everything for me was just super slow. I remember we were playing Bond. Do you remember that game?
GoldenEye.
Yeah. GoldenEye Bond.
Yeah, of course.
And I was playing with, a whole bunch of people, and that was my first time ever doing anything like that. And one of my friends, I thought I was playing really well, and he just comes to me, he taps me on the shoulder, he's like, "Why haven't you been running into that wall for 10 minutes?"
Well, they must love playing with you, because you were they just come behind you with the silence, with the Bond gun.
Have I been? I don't know. And I was like, oh, geez. Because my perception was I was playing well, but their perception was they're just like, dude, you've been just
you're spaced out.
Yeah.
You're spaced out. And I think that a lot of people
looking for the secret doorway.
Right. He's looking for exactly. No, but and I think that's the perception of a lot of people at first, because their body's not used to it. They're not used to handling it. So it's funny, we'll have athletes on that talk about how they've used it in cannabis, used cannabis and wish they did it because it slows down the game for them a little bit. But you have to have some experience to know, and you have to know the exact dosage that works for you, right? So, but a lot of people, and what I was really going to get into, again, you haven't had a ton of experience, but have you ever tried to use it after sports or playing or being injured or just sore, right? Have you ever used it after that and saw non-recreational where it actually helped you with aches and pains and things like that as well? So that's what I was asking.
I did, but it was by mistake.
Okay. All right.
So I was in Hawaii, and we played in this big big tournament at a polo field. It was like an all-day event. We played, I guess, 2 or 3 games. And at that time, I was, not the youngest player, but I wasn't the oldest player. But, I was, so you start feeling it a little bit. And then after the tournament was done, I was feeling a little bit sore, but nothing that I couldn't handle, but just a little bit of soreness. And I remember one of the guys, he was like, "Hey, do you want to take, an hash brownie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll try it,
Yeah, why not?
Why not?" And
it has brownie in it, first of all, so why would you not want to try it?
So one of my other friends, he was like, just to let you know, he puts in a lot. A lot of what? Just because at first I want to take the whole thing. He's like, no. He's like, maybe take about 1/4.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I trust the guy. So I tried about 1/4 of it, and
everybody's done this. They trust the guy that gave it to you, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing.
So I tried about 1/4, and man, it was like I was in the beginning. I was like, as soon as I ate it, I didn't really feel it, but after a little bit, the effects started, coming on, and I was like, all right, when's the next game? Come on, let's go. But that feeling lasted maybe about 20 minutes, and then after that, I was knocked on my butt, and I was
See, it's important, listeners. You need to find your dose because obviously, well, you have no real. I mean, you just, hash is strong. You don't really have a lot of experience. Your endocannabinoids aren't really ready for all that, and you almost get sensory overload. Is what really happens to people, and they don't understand. And some people take it very easily, like, all right, I'm high. I know I'm high, and I'm going to ride this out. Some people go and they say, let me just get really freaked out and make myself a nut and a nervous wreck because my anxiety kicks in because I'm either feeling super slow or I feel like it's hard to breathe and again, people, this is all in your head. Okay. There is nothing in cannabis that is ever going to, you can't overdose. People will call the cops, the ambulance and they really are like, well, they call the cops too, right? But they'll say and there's really not much they can do for you. Now, the one interesting point of this, Keith, is that when you have a little too much THC in your body, it actually can be negated with CBD because it's antagonist, protagonist. So it actually works in exactly opposite, polar opposite. So if you're really, really high, the antidote for that, and they used to sell it in Colorado in the beginning when people would do this very thing is it was just CBD. So CBD does work to reverse something. It just has to work with the science of the receptor, and it basically takes over that THC receptor and it helps reduce those effects. Also, yeah, it's kind of smothers it a little bit. You're still going to be high, but it's going to be a lot less. And obviously, you're going to want to drink a ton of water. But the effects that you probably got as an anti-inflammatory from that that you felt good after you would have recovered from that, from feeling the little bit of weirdness that you felt, you will notice that your body does react to it. Your joints are usually a little bit, it's a strong anti-inflammatory, right? So to help repair the muscles, the soreness, the joints, and things like that. And so a lot of people do use that for that. And so I'm excited to get you some product, and so you could try it if you want.
Yeah, of course. These days when we talk about this, it's not such like a hush topic anymore. As Nick was saying, when we grew up, it was hush. It was like, you would never ever tell anyone what you were doing unless you're with your friends who did the same thing. So like it was a very, very small group that would do it. But these days it's all over the place. It's basically legal in a lot of the states now. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. I don't know exactly how many states, but
no. Well, it's CBD is legal in all 50 states, depending on the percentages, and then more than half of all the states in the United States have at least recreational. Most states have at least prescription based from a doctor's recommendation if you need it. Yeah.
And I've met a lot of people that have that has the medical marijuana card,
right.
And people say it's like really easy to get.
Well, we do them here. We actually do them at PurWell on Fridays from 2 to 6. Little chance for me to get that in there. But if anyone's local and you want, we do have a doctor that comes from 2 to 6, but we have a lot of products that you don't even need to do that. We have a lot of products that would help you that are made for inflammation that you won't have to worry about getting your medical marijuana card. It's completely legal and it helps with long-term anti-inflammatory with no side effects. So remember, go on Hemp20 promo code on to PurWell and check that out. But yeah, exactly, Keith. It's the fact of it is easily available. And what Hempire has really become, and the podcast has become, is erasing the stigmas of cannabis, educating. So it's not just you getting something, right, or being afraid to talk about it or talking about it, but how many people it actually changes their life and helps them. And that's why, having somebody I went to high school with and know what it's like to be in battle with him, and how, your body, is probably, not like we were when we were in high school. And the amount of effects that you might get from that could just be sleeping issues, right? You could have something with your sleep that helps you sleep and get more into REM. It could be something that you are struggling with stress or anxiety with work and the things that we didn't have when we were growing up, right? Now we have bills and we have all these other crazy things that happen and family issues and things. So, it really just depends on finding what works for you and being able to use it to supplement, not getting stoned all day long. And this is not what we're trying to say. We're just trying to say that there's a benefit to it and more people should know. They should be educated about it instead of just saying, no, like I would never do this. Maybe be a little more open-minded to say, I'm willing to give it a shot. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be totally zonked out or slow and get my ass kicked in Bond. And it might just help me with my knees or my leg that I just broke because my boy threw me into a car. Shout out to him, by the way. Horrible. Don't feel bad about it. No. But yeah, so, and that's why, I just loved your story, Keith. And, I love you, man. You're, what you do and how you did it and how you're trying to bring awareness to cancer and doing what you did was just something that was amazing to me. And I wish that more people had that ability to just get up in the morning and say, I'm going to do something, not just for me, but something for someone else or change something that maybe makes a difference. Because when we're all gone, you just have your name and what you've done. And that'll always, you have I think you have your lacrosse stick in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame or something, where do you have it in there? You have your lacrosse stick somewhere.
Yeah, so my lacrosse stick and the ball, which I walked across the U.S. with, is now in the Philadelphia Lacrosse Hall of Fame.
Nice. See what I mean? Like, it's such a cool thing. And you know that you did it for cancer, right? It's not like you just walked across the country. You raised a lot of money for cancer and, more importantly, the awareness. And people need to know, if you are going to support a specific, whatever the cause is, could be animals, could be anything, know who you're giving your money to. Let's make sure that money's actually going to the cause and not going to his new Ferrari, because we want to
third
or his exact. There you go, Pete. Obviously, no, but just do a little research, right? And make sure that you're supporting something that's really supporting the cause that you want to do, and that could be a cannabis fund. That could be PurWell and Hempire. That could be cancer. That could be animals. That could be anything. But just know, and that's why we always say, get educated, right? So, Pete, tell them where we should, how they can support us, where they need to go. Take us out.
Well, yeah, what you guys could do. One, we want to appreciate your time. And you can support Keith here if you go to KCDAdventure, correct? Follow you anywhere there?
Yep.
Excellent. And for us there, we are over at PurWell.com. That's PurWell.com. And remember, and check out all our items there and use that code for 20% off. The code is Hempire, Hempire. So make sure you use that at checkout. And to support us, please like, subscribe, follow, and share with all your friends at all your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Cannabis Radio, Amazon, and anywhere else you like to get your podcast listened to. Other than that, Nick, is hopefully next week everybody's got a little more educated, and we'll do this again.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Keith, for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast. It's always good. Like I said, it's always good to see a familiar face and, meet new friends. So, hopefully I'll come down to South Florida and, we can catch up on old times again.
You can take a car, though. You don't have to walk.
I'll probably fly.
Look, you're upgrading already.
But listen, Keith, you better bring your lacrosse stick because we're gonna throw it around a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, you got it, bud.
Take it easy. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, pleasure. Take care, guys.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without proper consent is prohibited.